In this short video, I'd like to share with you my own personal thoughts about religious abuse, not as a criticism against one's church or faith community, but merely as an observation with a view to putting in place a positive remedy that would help heal the memories for the many beautiful men and women who heard God's call, who responded to the voice of God in their heart, and who took the words of Jesus, particularly those in the Christian community, like myself, when they heard the words from Jesus, "Come, my beloved, follow me." Please let me explain. I was very privileged in 1966 to follow my heart, and my heart guided me to become a monk with view to becoming a nursing missionary in Africa. But to get from A to B, I had to go through specialist training to become a monk and then to become a nurse. And the training to be a monk implied that I had to leave my family, my friends, and enter a Catholic monastery which was situated about 300 miles from my home on an island. And in those 3 years, the only people I did see was the postman and the occasional visitor to a member of the community. And initially it was quite difficult because I was a city lad. I came from Dublin and I had to get used to the silence and the solitude. But once I got into that mindset, I really did enjoy the peace and quiet as I do today. But then I realized that the training was quite rigorous, and after the first night, certain freedoms were allowed for the new recruits. I suppose it's like any profession, like the army. There's a process of being introduced gradually, but not then. You were thrown in at the deep end. And I remember my first night, having said goodbye to my parents, I went to the loo and I sat there on these old Victorian type toilets with this huge container above me with a long chain, and I hadn't seen one of those, ever. But I remember sitting there crying, missing my mum and dad, missing all my brothers and sisters, and my little brother Neville. And I was blowing my nose and feeling really sorry for myself. And having wiped away the tears, I could hear a voice saying, "Where are you, Sean Bradley?" So I immediately composed myself and came out. And it was the novice master, stern as anything. "You do realize you're late for chapel?" And I thought, oh, how unkind. I don't even know where the chapel is. But however, to cut a long story short, throughout my monastic training, I encountered a practice that really caused me heartache, and it was the chapter of faults, which we had every month. And you know, it was for the silliest little things, like if we used the front stairs and not the back stairs, that was a fault. If we went to open the front door without permission, it was a fault. And if we should accidentally break a cup or a saucer whilst washing and drying the pots after meal, that was a fault. If we broke the grand silence, that was a major fault. And the grand silence was after night prayer, which was 9 o'clock, till 9 o'clock the following morning. So for 12 hours you had to keep that stum. Well, my introduction to that was just, oh, I just thought they've lost it here. So each one of the community, they were all kneeling down, whilst the superior novice master and the 2 assistant monks were sat there at this table, and all us novices and postulants were kneeling before these men. And they started was, bless me, Father, I have sinned against the holy rule. And I thought, what rule? I broke a cup. I spoke in the grand silence. One brother said, I broke wind and made a noise and everybody laughed. Well, I wanted to laugh. But then I'm listening to all of this and I'm thinking, this is not real. This can't be happening. This is supposed to be a place where you learn to love God. All we're doing here is punishing one another. And then at the end of all of that, the superior then asked, does a brother have anything to say against another brother? Well, that was a field day for those that you didn't like. And there were some brothers there that I didn't like, and I didn't get on with them. In fact, I wouldn't have chose them as friends. But one of them actually said about me that I was an obnoxious, full of self-importance, lacking in humility, totally idiotic. And I thought, oh God, there's a start. So I thought, right, brother, I'm going to let you know what I think. And I laid into him. And I realize now I committed a sin against charity. But that whole exercise was abusive in the name of God. And I realize that. But what I find very disturbing is that throughout my professional life I've befriended a lot of priests, vicars, nuns and monks, some of whom have come to stay with us, and in bits, in total shreds, mentally, physically and emotionally. And I remember encountering some sisters who become alcoholic to the pressures of living in community, where they felt that they couldn't be themselves. And one friend, when she became a friend, she actually asked me to help her without letting her superior know. And it turned out that she'd been abused as a baby by her father, and it went on for 30 years. I thought, oh gosh. And the poor soul was in shreds, weeping. And I said, why don't you discuss this with your superior? She said, because she'd have me leave. I remember witnessing a fight between 2 professed sisters where they were pulling shreds from each other's head of hair. And that was caused by frustration. But I'm also aware that many young men and women who heard the call of God entered, and they were systematically abused in the name of God, where the vow of obedience was violated. And I know in the local in the press, in the international press, there's been a lot of reportings of Catholic priests involved in child sex abuse. And okay, the church has acknowledged it at last. It's overcome its arrogance. And we thank God for that. But what's so disheartening, it's never taken responsibility for the vocations that they were given by God. And when we were told to pray for vocations, having witnessed what I'd seen, I just said, no, I'm not willing to pray for vocations, because we don't have the wherewithal to care for those that we've been given by God. And I think that's an important note to end on. That we have to take care of each other, don't we? And we in the Teo community, whilst we're non-hierarchical and not affiliated to a particular church, yes, we are Christian-based and we come from different denominations, but our core values is to embrace all faiths and not to go down that route of punishing and discrediting and annihilating a heart filled with love of God. So I guess we're having to learn a painful lesson here. And we're trying to see God in each person and embrace the goodness of God rather than the sadness. Bless you.